Are you flying on a Boeing Max plane this year? Read this. Another week, another series of bad news stories for Boeing. On Monday, 50 people were injured. None were killed, when a 787 dropped abruptly mid-flight from Sydney to Auckland. That same day, the New York Times reported that a Federal Aviation Administration investigation into the production of the 737 MAX jets found that the company failed 33 of the 89 product audits at the factory where the planes are being built. The FAA's inspection was connected to the alarming incident in which a door plug blew out of a MAX 9 mid-flight in January. It's worth underscoring, air travel remains extremely safe. In fact, the reason Boeing's recent failures have attracted so much scrutiny is because these types of events are so rare. That said, reporting on Boeing's plane problems and reading Wizzy Kim's piece from late January, diving deep into the corporate issues at the company, have made me more appreciative of the risks posed by a combination of profit-driven corporate culture, inadequate regulation, and strained resources. The Boeing story is far from over, Matthew Oliver, an aerospace engineer formerly with the Canadian Armed Forces and expert in complex systems failures and forensic investigations, told me. It's like an onion, he says. There are so many layers to the Boeing failure. The flight control features that caused the 737 MAX planes to crash in 2018 and 2019, and the missing bolts that caused the door plug to fly off in the January flight incident are totally different, but there's a common theme around criticisms of the company. Investigators and journalists say that Boeing sometimes valued cost and corner-cutting measures over the objections of its employees. Executives and shareholders got rich, she writes, while tensions roiled in the rank and file, who argued that the company needed to be investing more in the people who built the planes and ensured their safety. In 2000, Boeing's engineers went on strike. Between 2019 and 2020, the company laid off thousands of people, raising concerns about the experience of those hired when the company began staffing up again post-pandemic. Workers turned whistleblowers complained about serious safety problems they said they witnessed while working on Boeing planes. The problems at Boeing may have a lot to do with corporate culture, but the company's struggles aren't happening in a vacuum. Critics also point to the FAA's regulation of the manufacturing giant and have questions about whether the agency is sufficiently funded and independent enough to provide proper oversight. One of the FAA's practices, allowing manufacturers to self-certify that their planes meet U.S. safety regulations, is the subject of particular scrutiny. With so much public attention on the company and the government, both are now taking steps to demonstrate publicly that they're working to ensure the safety of the planes. Should you fly on a Boeing? The chances that something bad will happen to you while flying are still extremely low. That said, if you decide you don't want to fly on a Boeing Max anymore, you aren't alone. A former senior manager for Boeing's 737 MAX program and the executive director of the Foundation for Aviation Safety won't fly in one. Oliver feels similarly. I would avoid flying on a recent Boeing product as much as possible. On the Foundation for Aviation Safety's website, there's a page that offers advice for people looking to avoid flying on a Max. If you find yourself booked on a Max, you can ask the ticket agent if you can be rebooked for a different flight. Ultimately, though, you might have to weigh your tolerance for remote risk against the serious inconvenience of rebooking a flight and the safety risks in whatever alternative modes of transportation you're considering. Just remember, it can be true that Boeing has safety issues and that flying is still very safe. Happy travels!